The coffee cup trembled in Leonardo's hand when he saw the three men in suits standing at the door. It was 7 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, and those lawyers should not have been there. Not at his house. Not looking for a 16-year-old black boy who barely had money for the bus. "Leonardo Martins?" asked the tallest one, adjusting his glasses with surgical precision. The boy could only nod. The old thermos was still dripping coffee onto the porch floor. He was about to do what he did every day before school, take hot coffee to old Enrique, who slept on the bench in Victoria Square. "We need to talk about Enrique Almeida. May we come in?" Leonardo's heart dropped. Enrique. The full name sounded strange. To him, he had always been just Mr. Enrique. The old man who woke up early, who held the cup with both trembling hands, who looked him in the eyes and said, "Thank you, my son," as if that were everything. But now Enrique had disappeared. For 3 days, the bench had been empty. Leonardo opened the door with trembling hands. The living room was small, humble. A patched-up sofa, a faded curtain, a photo of his deceased father on the wall. His mother, Celia, appeared from the kitchen, drying her hands on her apron, eyes wide with shock. "What happened? Did my son do something?" "Not at all, ma'am. Quite the opposite." The lawyer opened a leather folder. "We're here because your son was the only person who treated our client with dignity over the last 6 months." Leonardo sat down slowly. Nothing made sense. It all started 6 months earlier. Leonardo woke up at 5:30 every day. He made strong coffee, the way his father liked it. He poured it into the blue thermos that had belonged to his father. He walked 15 minutes to the square before catching the bus to school. On the first day, it was by accident. He saw the old man sitting on the bench, shivering from the cold. Too thin. Long beard, dirty clothes. And those eyes. Eyes that seemed to have seen the whole world and lost everything. Leonardo remembered his father. The way he always stopped to talk to those who needed it. "Son, we're only truly human when we recognize humanity in others." So he stopped. He offered coffee. The old man accepted. He didn't say anything, just held the cup and drank slowly, as if savoring something sacred. The next day, Leonardo came back. And the next. And the next. It became routine. Hot coffee, a few minutes of conversation. Sometimes Enrique told old stories. Sometimes he stayed quiet. It didn't matter. What mattered was being there. But that came at a cost. Leonardo started arriving late at school. Warnings. Notes sent to his mother. Classmates laughed. "Taking coffee to a bum now? What do you think you're going to get out of this? Wasting time for nothing." The worst was Professor Renato, the math teacher. A tall man, deep voice, always immaculate. He hated tardiness. And he hated it even more when he found out the reason. "You're throwing your future in the trash because of a bum who chose to live on the street. When are you going to grow up and see that nobody gives anything for free in this world?" Leonardo lowered his head, but came back the next day with the coffee. Because it wasn't about the coffee. It never was. It was about looking Enrique in the eyes and saying without words, "You exist. You matter." One day, Enrique gripped Leonardo's hand tightly. "You remind me of someone I lost, kid. Someone good." But he didn't explain who. And now he was gone. "Mr. Enrique passed away last week," the lawyer said, in a low voice. "But before that, he left very specific instructions." Celia pulled her son close. Leonardo felt his legs go weak. Enrique Almeida was not an ordinary homeless man. He was a retired businessman. Owner of 3 properties. He had money in the bank. But he lost his only son 7 years ago. Then he lost his wife. He ended up alone. The lawyer turned the page. He left home on purpose. He wanted to know who would stop. Who would look at him when he had nothing to offer. The family only showed up to ask for money. Former partners disappeared. Even his son-in-law, who today teaches at the school where you study, would turn his face away on the street. Leonardo's eyes widened. "Professor Renato. It was him. You were the only one who stopped. Who looked. Who came back every day. Without asking. Without expecting. And because of that, Enrique left everything to you." Silence fell heavily. What do you mean, everything? The properties. The savings. Everything. With one condition, that you finish your studies and use part of the money to help those in need. The way you helped him. Leonardo couldn't speak. Celia cried. The coffee went cold in the thermos. And in that moment, he understood. Enrique hadn't disappeared. He had simply left knowing that someone had seen him. Truly. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Leave a comment saying what you thought and which city or country you're watching from. The documents spread across the table looked like a lie. Deeds. Bank statements. A will registered at a notary's office. Everything in the name of Leonardo Martins, 16 years old, student. This can't be right, Celia kept repeating, staring at the papers as if they might explode. My son is underage. How can he inherit everything like this? The assets will be placed in a trust until he turns 18, explained the younger lawyer. But you will be the legal administrator. You can start getting your life in order now. Getting their life in order. The words echoed in Leonardo's head. They could barely pay rent. Celia worked 12 hours a day cleaning houses. Most days, they ate rice and eggs. And now this. There's something you need to know, said the lawyer with the glasses, closing the folder. Mr. Enrique's family will contest this. Especially the son-in-law. Professor Renato, Leonardo murmured. Exactly. He was married to Enrique's daughter, who passed away 3 years ago. He believed he would inherit everything. He's furious. Celia squeezed her son's shoulder. We didn't ask for any of this. I know. But he won't see it that way. Be prepared. The lawyers left. Mother and son were left alone in the small living room, looking at each other without knowing what to feel. Joy? Fear? Guilt? Leonardo picked up the blue thermos. There was still coffee inside. Coffee that never reached Enrique. Coffee that would never reach him again. Mom, I just wish you were still here. Celia hugged her son. He knew, Leonardo. You gave him something no amount of money can buy. But on Monday, when Leonardo returned to school, he discovered that some things money can't protect you from. Professor Renato was standing at the classroom door. Arms crossed. Stone-cold stare. When Leonardo walked past, he spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. Well, look who showed up. The heir. The whole class turned. Whispers. Laughter. Leonardo felt his face burn. Sit down, Martins. Before you start thinking you're too important to attend class now. Leonardo sat in the back. His heart was pounding out of rhythm. He tried to focus, but Renato's voice kept hammering away. You know, class, there are people who think they can get ahead in life by being clever. By pretending to be kind. But I know that type well. I've seen people lose everything by believing in fake little cups of coffee. The words were sharp, calculated. Renato wasn't teaching. He was attacking. During the break, it got worse. 3 classmates cornered Leonardo in the hallway. So, rich boy? Gonna give some money to your friends. I bet you already knew the old man had money. All set up, right? My dad said your mom is the neighbor's housekeeper. How embarrassing, getting money like that. Leonardo tried to leave, but one of them shoved him. I'm talking to you. Leave him alone, man. Now he thinks he's better than us. Anger rose hot. Leonardo clenched his fists. He was tired. Tired of being judged. Of being called clever when he had only done what he thought was right. I never asked for anything. His voice came out louder than he expected. Never. I only brought coffee because he was alone. Because nobody else stopped. None of you stopped. Oh, so now we're the bad ones. The boy laughed. You're nothing but an opportunist. That was when the principal appeared. What's going on here? Everyone scattered. Except Leonardo. He stood there, trembling, trying not to cry. Martins, come with me. In the office, she closed the door. Sat down calmly. I heard about what happened. With Mr. Enrique. And with the inheritance. Leonardo waited for the scolding. Waited to be expelled. Waited for more humiliation. but she let out a deep sigh. I also heard that Professor Renato has been making things difficult for you. He has the right to be angry, I guess. No, he doesn't. The principal took off her glasses. Renato visited Enrique twice in 6 months. Twice. And only to ask for money. I know this because Enrique told me. Leonardo's eyes widened. You knew Mr. Enrique? I did. He was a friend of my late husband. And he called me 2 months ago saying he had found a special boy. A boy who stopped every day. Who looked him in the eyes. Who reminded him of his son. The tears came. Leonardo couldn't hold them back. Enrique tested everyone, Leonardo. Family. Friends. Acquaintances. Everyone failed. Except you. And do you know why? Because you wanted nothing. You just wanted to be human. But now everyone hates me. No. Everyone is jealous. It's different. Because deep down, they know they would never do what you did. They would never stop. Never look. And it hurts to admit that. She handed him a tissue. Stay strong. This will pass. And you'll use this inheritance the way Enrique wanted. I'm sure of it. Leonardo left the office with his head held high. But inside, one question kept pounding. What if everyone was right? What if he really didn't deserve any of it? That night, alone in his room, he opened the drawer. There was the only thing Enrique had given him personally, a crumpled note, handed to him 2 weeks before he disappeared. Leonardo unfolded the paper. The shaky letters read, "Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. You have your father's heart." And in that moment, Leonardo understood. It didn't matter what others thought. What mattered was what he knew to be true. 3 weeks later, Leonardo was in the lawyer's office when he discovered something that changed everything. "We need to talk about the challenge," said the lawyer with the glasses, opening a new folder. "Renato has filed a lawsuit claiming that Enrique was not of sound mind when he made the will." Celia gripped her purse tightly. "But that's a lie." "We know. But he managed to get 3 witnesses who will swear that Enrique was confused in his last months. One of them is his cousin, Isabel. Another is his former business partner. The third is the nurse who took care of him years ago." Leonardo felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. "And now we need to prove that Enrique knew exactly what he was doing. And we have an ace." The lawyer placed a flash drive on the table. Enrique recorded videos. Several of them. During the 6 months he spent in the square. He documented everything. Everything what? Everyone who passed by him. Including the family. That night, Leonardo watched the videos alone in his room. The camera was hidden, probably in an old backpack that Enrique always carried. The first video showed Renato walking through the square. Enrique called out to him. "Renato. It's me, Enrique." Renato turned, looked him up and down, and said, "I don't have money to give you, old man. Go find a shelter." And he walked away without looking back. Leonardo felt nauseous. Renato knew who he was. He knew and pretended not to. The second video was worse. Cousin Isabel stopped, recognized Enrique, and laughed. "Look where you ended up, uncle. We warned you that you'd end up like this. Too proud to accept help." "I don't need help, Isabel. I just wanted to talk." "Talking doesn't pay bills. When you get tired of this nonsense, call us. But no money, no favors." And she left. There was more. The former partner who asked for a loan and never came back. The nurse who looked away and crossed the street. Acquaintance after acquaintance, turning their backs. And then Leonardo saw himself. It was the first day. He appeared in the video walking fast, checking his watch. He walked right past. But 10 steps later, he stopped. Turned back. Looked at Enrique. "Would you like some coffee?" The sound of Leonardo's own voice felt strange, younger, more uncertain. But sincere. Enrique accepted it. Drank slowly. And when he handed the cup back, he said only, "Thank you, son." Leonardo had forgotten that. But there it was, recorded. Proof that he had no second intentions. He didn't even know who Enrique was. He just saw an old man cold and offered coffee. The third video was from 2 weeks later. Leonardo arrived with a thermos and some bread. He sat on the bench. They talked about soccer, about Leonardo's father, about simple things. Was your father a good man? Enrique asked. The best. He always said we recognize humanity in others. That's what matters. Enrique fell silent. Then nodded. He taught you right. There were more than 50 videos. 50 mornings recorded. Leonardo bringing coffee. Sometimes talking. Sometimes just sitting together. Never asking for anything. Never expecting anything. And in the last video, recorded 3 days before Enrique disappeared, he looked straight into the camera. If someone is watching this, it's because I'm already gone. I want you to know that I made this will with a clear mind and a full heart. Leonardo gave me back something I thought I had lost when my son died, the hope that kindness without self-interest still exists. He didn't know who I was. He wanted nothing. He just saw me. And that is worth more than any fortune. Leonardo turned off the laptop. He cried. He cried because Enrique was right. He cried because now he had proof. He cried because he would never again be able to thank him in person. The next morning, he woke up different. He made coffee, put it in the blue thermos, and went to Victoria Square. The bench was empty, but Leonardo sat down anyway. He opened the thermos and filled the cup. He drank the coffee slowly, watching the city wake up. A woman ran past. A man shouted into his phone. No one stopped. No one looked. Everyone was too busy to see who was around them. I see you, Leonardo murmured. Just like you taught me, Mr. Enrique. That was when he noticed. On the other side of the square, under the tree, there was another old man. Younger than Enrique, maybe around 60. Sitting on the ground. Shivering. Leonardo stood up. Picked up the thermos. Crossed the square. Would you like some coffee? The man lifted his eyes. Deep, frightened eyes, expecting rejection. I would, he said softly. Leonardo poured it. The man drank. And in that moment, Leonardo understood what he needed to do with the inheritance. He understood Enrique's plan. It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about spreading it. The gesture. The look. The recognition. That afternoon, Leonardo went to the lawyers. I want to use part of the money to open a space. A place where people experiencing homelessness can have coffee, talk, be seen. Without having to prove anything. Without judgment. Like a shelter? No. Like a home. Where everyone is welcome. The lawyers looked at each other. Smiled. Enrique would love that. I know. But Leonardo also knew that Renato wasn't going to give up. The battle was only beginning. And he needed to be ready. The hearing was scheduled for a Thursday. Leonardo entered the courthouse with trembling legs. Celia held her son's hand tightly. The lawyers walked ahead, confident. Across the hallway, Renato waited. Impeccable suit, upright posture, surrounded by his own lawyers. When he saw Leonardo, his face twisted in pure contempt. Opportunist, he said loudly enough to echo. You're going to give back what isn't yours. Leonardo took a deep breath. He didn't respond. He entered the courtroom. The judge was an older man, gray hair, eyes tired from seeing so many disputes over money. He struck the gavel. Let's begin. Renato's lawyer stood up. Firm voice, calculated gestures. Your Honor, we are here because a minor took advantage of an elderly man in a vulnerable situation. Enrique Almeida was visibly confused, living on the streets, without the capacity to make rational decisions. This boy manipulated him with a daily cup of coffee, expecting exactly this result. Leonardo felt anger burn in his chest. But the lawyers had warned him, don't react. Let them talk. We have 3 witnesses who will confirm Mr. Enrique's debilitated mental state, including his cousin, Isabel Almeida, who lived with him for years. Isabel was cold. Hair tied back, formal clothes, the expression of someone who had practiced her testimony in front of a mirror. My uncle was different in recent times. He said things that made no sense. He was confused. He even forgot the name of his own deceased daughter. A lie. Leonardo knew it was a lie. Enrique remembered everything. Even the day his son was born. Even the color of his wife's eyes. And then this boy appeared out of nowhere offering coffee. I found it strange from the beginning. Who does that without wanting something in return? Decent people, Leonardo murmured without meaning to. The judge looked at him. Silence. Then it was the former partner's turn. Same speech. Enrique confused. Leonardo manipulative. Everything planned. Renato testified last. And it was brutal. Enrique was my father-in-law. I lost my wife, his daughter, 3 years ago. It was devastating for both of us. I tried to help him. I offered money, support, even my own home. But he refused everything. He became too proud. And ended up on the streets. Another lie. The videos showed the opposite. When I learned he was in the square, I visited him several times. I begged him to come back. But he pushed me away. Said I only wanted his money. Renato paused, wiped a fake tear. And now I discover he left everything to a stranger. A boy who barely knew him. That is not the will of someone in perfect mental condition. The courtroom fell silent. Renato had been convincing. Very convincing. The judge looked at Leonardo. Do you have anything to say? Leonardo stood up. Hands sweating. Heart racing. He looked at Renato. At Isabel. At the former partner. All waiting for him to crumble. I never asked Mr. Enrique for anything. Never. I didn't even know he had money. I didn't even know his full name. I only knew he was alone. And that no one stopped. No one looked. His voice was trembling, but he continued. I brought coffee because my father taught me that people take care of people. Simple as that. And do you know what I discovered? That everyone here saying they cared about him turned their backs when he had nothing to offer. That's a lie. Renato stood up. I took care of him. Then why did he record you pretending not to know him? Absolute silence. Leonardo's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, we have evidence. Videos recorded by Enrique Almeida himself during the 6 months he spent in the square. He was of absolutely sound mind. And he documented everything. The first video was played. Renato on the screen, looking at Enrique, saying he had no money to give, walking away. The color drained from Renato's face. The second video. Isabel laughing. Calling Enrique proud. Saying that without money, there was no favor. Isabel lowered her head. The third video. Leonardo offering coffee for the first time. Without knowing who Enrique was. Without wanting anything. And then the last video. Enrique looking straight into the camera, voice firm, eyes clear. I made this will with a clear mind and a full heart. Leonardo gave me back hope. He didn't want my money. He just wanted to see me. And that is worth everything. The courtroom fell into sepulchral silence. The judge watched until the end. Turned off the screen. Looked at Renato with deep disappointment. Mr. Renato, you lied under oath. The witnesses lied under oath. This will is absolutely valid. Enrique Almeida was in perfect mental condition. And more than that, he showed wisdom in identifying the only genuine person around him. He struck the gavel. Case closed. The inheritance remains with Leonardo Martins. Renato exploded. This is injustice. He manipulated everything. You are removed from the courtroom. Guards. Renato was dragged out, shouting, humiliated. Isabel ran out. The former partner disappeared. Leonardo stood still, unable to believe it. Celia hugged him. The lawyers smiled. It's over, one of them said. You won. But Leonardo knew he hadn't won anything. He had only proven the obvious, that kindness without self-interest still exists. And that some people hate that because it exposes who they really are. Outside, Leonardo saw Renato leaning against his car. Defeated. Alone. And for a second, he felt pity. But Enrique had been right. Some people only see value when money is involved. And those people will never understand. 6 months later, Leonardo stood at the entrance of a renovated old building. The sign at the door read, Casa Enrique, everyone is welcome. It wasn't a shelter. It wasn't an institution. It was exactly what he had promised, a place where people could come in, have coffee, talk, be seen. Without having to prove anything. Without judgment. Without bureaucracy. Celia stood beside him, looking at her son with pride mixed with concern. Are you sure about this, Leo? That's a lot of money invested. I'm sure, Mom. This is what he left everything for. The house had wooden tables, comfortable sofas, shelves filled with books. The kitchen always had fresh coffee. Always. Leonardo had hired Donna Rosa, a woman who had recently lost her husband, to coordinate the space. She understood loneliness. She understood what it meant to be invisible. On the first day, 3 people showed up. On the second, 7. In the first week, 24. People experiencing homelessness, lonely people, people who just needed someone to look them in the eyes. And every day, without fail, Leonardo arrived at 6 in the morning with a blue thermos. The same one he had used with Enrique. He sat, talked, listened to stories. A man named Paolo said he had been an engineer. He lost his job, then his wife, then his house. No one saw me as a person anymore. Until I came here. A woman named Beatriz said her children had forgotten her. Here I have a name again. Leonardo listened to everything. Every story. Every pain. And he understood why Enrique had done it. Why he had tested everyone. Why he had chosen an unknown boy. It wasn't about money. It was about spreading what he had received, dignity. One day, Leonardo was serving coffee when he saw someone standing at the door. Renato. The former teacher looked different. Thinner. Unshaven. Tired eyes. Standing on the threshold, without the courage to come in. Leonardo could have turned his back. He could have sent him away. He could have charged him for every humiliation, every cruel word. But he did none of that. He filled a cup of coffee. Walked to the door. Extended his hand. Would you like some? Renato looked at the cup. At his own empty hands. At Leonardo's face. And something broke inside him. I don't deserve it. No one here needs to deserve anything. They just need to accept. Renato took the cup. Drank slowly. Began to cry. I was wrong. I was wrong with Enrique. I was wrong with you. I was wrong with everyone. Leonardo didn't say everything was okay. Because it wasn't. But he also didn't tell him to leave. You can stay. Have some coffee. Talk. If you want. Renato stayed. Sat in a corner. Quiet. Watching Leonardo attend to other people with the same patience he had shown Enrique. When he left, hours later, he stopped at the door. Why did you do this? Why did you let me in after everything? Leonardo thought. Remembered his father. Remembered Enrique. Remembered every morning bringing coffee without expecting anything. Because recognizing humanity in others isn't about who deserves it. It's about who we choose to be. Renato lowered his head and left. In the following months, Casa Enrique became a reference point. Donations appeared. Volunteers. People wanting to help. Leonardo's story spread. The boy who inherited a fortune for bringing coffee to an elderly man and used it all to multiply the gesture. Newspapers published it. Social media shared it. People from other cities began copying the idea. But Leonardo didn't care about fame. He kept waking up early. Kept making coffee. Kept looking into the eyes of every person who walked in. 1 year after the first coffee with Enrique, Leonardo sat on the bench in Victoria Square. The same bench. The same blue thermos. He looked around. The city rushed by. People hurried, glued to their phones, seeing nothing and no one. But now he saw differently. He saw the man sleeping under the tree. The woman digging through trash. The boy asking for money at the traffic light. He saw them. And that made a difference. He filled a cup. Stood up. Walked to the man under the tree. Would you like some coffee? The man woke up startled. Looked suspicious. Why? Because you're here. The man accepted it. Drank. And something changed in his eyes. Something small, but real. Leonardo went back to the bench. Looked at the sky. Thank you, Mr. Enrique, for teaching me that we are only truly human when we recognize humanity in others. And in that moment he knew. The inheritance wasn't the money. It never was. It was the ability to stop. To look. To see. It was the choice to be human in a world that forgot how. And that inheritance had no price. Because it couldn't be bought. It could only be lived. Every day. One cup of coffee at a time. Leonardo smiled. Put the thermos away. And went home knowing that tomorrow, he would wake up again at 6. Make coffee again. Look into people's eyes again. Because some things need to be repeated so they are never forgotten. And human dignity was one of them. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Leave a comment saying what you thought and which city or country you're watching from. Your presence here makes all the difference, just like Leonardo's coffee made a difference in